Here we are a little bit late, but this is the Refinery, episode 12, September 2nd, 2014. I'm back from having a week off on vacation, and we've got a lot of good things that we want to talk about. Eventually, we're going to get to Felicia talking about her trip with Corey and Andy, our Party of Choice folks. They were all in Dallas this past weekend. Corey and Andy, in fact, are, I guess, still traveling the country because they're not here today. So we're going to have to get along without them. And we're going to get along without Ryan for a little while because he's taking care of his children. But JD is here, and JD had a few things that he wanted to talk about right off the bat. Probably the story of the day, which is the nude photos. I guess we have to talk about that, huh?
Yeah, no, I think that we really should talk about that because it's something that we have a bit of a messaging dilemma here. I think for a lot of people, for those who don't know or who haven't been paying attention, some hacker hacked a bunch of celebrities' iCloud accounts. It's the Apple cloud server thing where if you have pictures on your iPhone, whatever, you can pay them a fee, and they will host those pictures in the cloud so that it doesn't take up space on your phone. So that got hacked, and a bunch of nude pictures from A-list celebrities have matriculated their way onto the internet and are being distributed through the back alleys and nasty places that the internet houses. And the thing that concerns me is that we need to, as a movement, we need to remember that there was a crime committed here. That these photos, doesn't matter what they were of. It doesn't matter that these are nude photos. It doesn't matter. I don't care what the data was, but it was stolen, and it was their private property. So we need to make sure that we don't start saying, "Oh well, if those people wouldn't have taken those pictures, then there wouldn't be any problem here whatsoever." The encryption on the iCloud is the same as many bank servers, so it was a big deal. It was a huge theft, and we are not winning people over by blaming the victims and saying that, "Oh hey, put some clothes on, you skank." Not helpful.
Well, I've been skipping past all of the blog articles about it, and I haven't watched the news or listened to any radio. Is there some general conservative message about it that is heinous and different from what Democrats are saying, or is this just your basic prurient interest of Americans these days where sex sells and everybody's trying to get hits on their blog? And I mean, is it something that's a Democrat versus Republican, conservative versus liberal messaging thing, or is it just a stupid story that we can all ignore? Because
It
I've been
really sh- it really shouldn't be a Democrat versus Republican thing. I think that there are certainly people on our side that have made it that have gotten into that game and decided that, oh hey, this is a good opportunity for me to score points. Back to the
mm,
whole point scoring discussion. This is a good place for me to score points and look at these people, these Hollywood, which is completely loose of moral character, just terrible,
oh, it proves my
awful,
preconceived
immoral
notions.
people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, it goes through all that. Honestly, I haven't heard anything from Rush or Mark Levin or any of those guys. I haven't even heard anything from Fox News talking about it, but I'm sure that there are people out there. I've seen some Facebook posts, I've seen some tweets. It's not a good look for us, and it's not a good thing to be blaming the victim here when this is a serious theft, and the consequences of this psychologically on these people, it's
That's
just it's
horrible.
not a yeah it's really terrible.
Well, and look at what, if you put it down into your own life, if something similar happened to you, if your children, pictures of your children who had been, maybe stalked by somebody, or there was a creepy neighbor or something. If your own personal information, your banking information, or college transcripts or whatever was stolen and blasted out there, it wouldn't be a story that the media would cover. And for us to look at it as though this is a great time to talk about, security and what we have, what general hackers have access to due to their skill, but what also the government has access to. I mean, that's a good point you could make. That's a great direction to take it in. But the scoldy, oh, if you weren't doing anything wrong, it wouldn't have been a problem. That's the same argument that we make when we talk about the NSA. Some, not us, but
Right.
some people that we see. Oh, if you weren't doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about the NSA combing your metadata.
Right. I mean,
That's completely
whatever
backward.
whatever these pictures are, they were not published publicly, so they weren't intended for public consumption, so they're none of my business. And somebody stole somebody else's private stuff, pictures, information, data, whatever, and is using it for their own nefarious purposes. Um, I saw another article today that apparently Home Depot has been a victim of credit card hackers to a tremendous extent, possibly like through all of May and all of June, and it would be 40 million people. I mean, a monstrous credit card uh, data release or hacking, and they've seen that because the information was being sold on Russian and Ukraine sites. And these are issues that are worth talking about. Get more comfortable with cash. Don't be 100% dependent upon Google or Facebook or Twitter or anything you don't own and don't have complete control of. Always have a backup. Always have copies of your data because, Facebook could decide to shut down your page or shut down your profile for a day. Is there another way for you to communicate with people? And these are, I think, valid things for us to talk about. And how much of what we put out there that's public and that we just sort of wink and nod and know that the government has access to it, because they do. They have access to all of it, and they make use of that access with or without legitimate cause. Government employees are people no better than you and me. So these government, just if you had access to all of other people's information, and you were bored at work, because most of them are bored, what would you do? You would dig in and go, oh my God, look at how much Susie is earning. Look at her credit rating. What did she say on you? Because you can, you will, because you're bored and you're just a regular guy just like us. For us to think that the government, who has access to all of this information, that they're not going to use and abuse it out of boredom and out of a desire for profit, is naive in the extreme. These are issues that are worth talking about. Whether or not Jennifer Lawrence should have gotten naked in front of a camera, I don't care. That's her business, not mine. If she wants to get naked in front of a camera in a movie set and is going to get paid millions of dollars for it, awesome, that's her business. But when she makes pictures of herself for her boyfriend or for whatever purpose to see if she's going to look good in her Hunger Games uniforms, whatever they are, costumes. There's the word. Uh, that's her business, not mine. I don't care. And there's nothing positive that we can make out of that conversation. But if we bring it around to a conversation of the digitization of all of our lives and the risk that we're putting ourselves at, and the risk that we have just blithely assumed because it was beneficial to us. It's beneficial to us right now to have this video conference for free that we're broadcasting live on YouTube, and it'll be 2 hours worth of free conference video all across the country, live streamed around the world, and then people can watch it forever. And wow, that's awesome. And I'm willing to give Google my information in exchange for them giving me this technology. They're selling my information to someone else. I know that. And that's an agreement that that's something that I've agreed to. I didn't agree to the government taking it. I did not agree to, and we've joked about it. Oh, hey, NSA, if you're listening, when I said I didn't mean, but those are those are serious and scary things that we should be talking about.
When we're talking about the online life that we live too, as I was saying, this happening to everyday people that aren't named Jennifer Lawrence wouldn't be news unless it's in massive numbers like the Home Depot or the Target case. I got a new debit card out of the Target case. They sent me, the bank automatically sent me a new debit card simply because I had shopped at Target during the period in which they had been hacked, which was great service, yay, but what this does do is give us the opportunity to highlight the issues of whether our information is secure, how much we do share online, and who has access to it and who can potentially gain access to it. And it's sad that it happened to anybody, but that it happened to these celebrities is an opportunity for us not just to commiserate and draw parallels to our own lives, but to really educate people about this, because otherwise these sorts of incidents don't get publicity unless they're really nasty. Say a boyfriend takes a picture of his girlfriend, and then does he own the picture or does she? And if they break up, what happened? There have been cases like that. It has to be that ridiculous to get it into the public sphere. Here we have an opportunity to do that with people who have damage control and publicists and who can handle that and handle themselves, but also connect that to our lives with that empathy, I think, and also in the direction of the bad guy hackers aren't the only ones who have access to your data.
And the thing about the other guys who have access to your data, the government, there was a story just this month, and there have been many of them, about the board federal workers, the board government workers, doing some web searching of their own and on some porn sites for up to 8 hours 8 hours a week. So if you're you've got nothing better to do and you're at the NSA, maybe
now I can't surf porn, so all I can do is surf the databases of the people who use Google, because I have access to those databases. They shut me down and I can't get to porn websites anymore, dang it. So
because
I'm still bored.
The people at the NSA are definitely going to be they're going to be dissuaded by a porn filter on their computers. I'm pretty sure.
It's not in the whitelist on my firewall,
If you're working at the NSA, might be able to get past that. This is.
I don't know. They're government employees. I'm not sure they're that smart.
Well, they're the NSA. They have access to these things, so I wouldn't be so sure about that. But it's a scary thing, and we really do need to be on the lookout, because I know, I can tell you for a fact that we do not sound good if we try and blame the victim on this one, because people can relate to this, and people can definitely empathize with Jennifer Lawrence.
And I'm going to say that the private life is private for a reason, and your past, as much of it as you want to make public, is your decision to manage or not manage, as the case may be. And I find it interesting that some people on our side want to default to, well, you shouldn't have done the behavior that now you're regretting in the first place. Because I can tell you, from pretty good knowledge that, we got some conservative icons around who probably wouldn't pass a drug test. I'm just saying.
I wonder if so much of the judgmentalism that comes from the right is displaced guilt over their own mistakes. Because, we see displacement on the left. They accuse us of being racist bigots and all of these things that actually they tend to be, and we tend to be very judgmental about misbehavior. And I think maybe it's displaced guilt from our own misdeeds, because none of us are perfect, obviously, and conservatives tend to have at least a goal of being moral, upstanding human beings, and we know we fail and we judge others who do. So I'm just thinking through. I don't know.
Maybe there's some of that. I think it comes down again to empathy. If you have the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, maybe you're more likely to withhold that kind of judgment. And that maybe we do have too many. I couldn't speak to it out of a person's, personal guilt or out of their superior feelings of, say, being the brother that was not. What is that? Not the prodigal son. There might be some of that other brother thinking there. I don't know. Just to throw in a big biblical reference. But I would imagine just it's a matter of whether you have empathy or not. Are you able on a regular basis, and you should be, to put yourself in someone else's shoes, even and still hold your same views, but look at life through their eyes. And I think that's something conservatives should be practicing on a regular basis. Are you able to take 5 minutes and stand in the shoes of someone else, someone who might have done something stupid, someone who might have done something ridiculous, someone who might have done something dangerous even, and stop from your own place and just soak there for a few minutes, and then determine what you think they might be thinking or feeling. I think it's a lost art. I don't think that our internet culture promotes that thinking.
We don't,
Anymore.
and I think it's a slow down thing, because the pace of life is quickening, and we create our own stress, and oh, I'm so busy. Everybody says that now, um, because we're creating busy work for ourselves, and we're making ourselves not have time. And on social media, we see it even more. You don't take the time to sit down at the desktop and use a full keyboard to write out full sentences and a paragraph of what your thoughts are. That takes the that takes time. And during the time that you're writing that paragraph, your perspective is going to change. The feeling that you had when you started reacting and answering this post or whatever, by the time you've written a full paragraph, you may have changed your own perspective, and you may edit it, and you may rethink it and not respond at all. I've done that a lot of times. But what we have is, because people feel that they need to be connected all the time, they are using Twitter and Facebook and Google Plus with their mobile devices, and they're taking that 15 seconds to read the story and respond, because I have to read it and I have to respond and I have to get it done. Well, in that 15 seconds that you take to handle that one issue, you're not taking the time to really empathize, because empathy, as you said, take that 5 minutes, take that 5 seconds,
But
and we
Leslie,
don't
you don't
we don't do
you
that
just you
anymore.
don't understand. You don't get it. I need more favorites and retweets.
I know.
I need them.
Like, if you
So I
agree.
need to do it now, because if I do it now, then more people will see my tweet instead of the tweet that comes 5 seconds. I'm sorry, 5 milliseconds after my tweet. So that you get
Exactly.
that 5 millisecond advantage, and you get
And
more
you've won
RTs and
whatever you've won,
well,
but you've
clearly,
lost
no, no,
you've
no,
lost
no,
your
no, no.
soul
There's
in the
no,
story.
no. You've won. You've won a substantial
You won the
victory.
internet.
Yes, you have won more internets than the person who tweeted slightly after you.
Uh-huh.
Um, I wanna just address something that Prue's saying in the chat. It's like why they have PSAs about not leaving things in plain sight in your unattended vehicle. No one is giving them permission to steal, but criminals don't care. I think that there's a difference here, because what we're talking about with the iCloud, it's not the same thing as leaving uh, pictures in plain sight. It's
Yeah,
not
those were brute force password
these
hacks.
these were uh, in a place where there was every reasonable expectation of privacy. I mean, like as I said before, these had bank level encryption on them.
Yeah,
They
this is
were not.
breaking and entering.
Yeah.
Yes, this is somebody went into your house and robbed you, and this is what they took. I mean,
They take these pictures out of your file. They're in your scrapbook. That's
yes,
on your shelf in your bookshelf, or even maybe in your attic,
yeah.
because it's been there
That's
so long. It's in your scrapbook in your attic, and somebody went in and got that.
and it's again, there's every reasonable expectation of
Yeah.
privacy in this situation. It is this is not a problem of common sense, in my opinion. I mean, am I a person that would take nude pictures and send them to people? No, that's just not who I am. But um,
Actors and actresses, their bodies and
it
their physicality is
it
their
goes back
career.
it goes back to the point that it doesn't even matter what the MacGuffin is. I mean, let's use
Yeah,
that
that's
term.
true.
It's the fact that it happened. It's the fact that it occurred, and it wasn't just nude pictures. It was all pictures. So there are pictures of actresses, little kids. There's pictures of whatever relatives. There's so much
Their
that
house,
could
their
be
car with the license plate on it,
all of
whatever.
those things. So we talk about, and this is my fault because I started it off by talking about the nude photos when I should have said is that it was all of this data. It was all of these
Hmm.
things that were private. It's not just nude pictures, it's family photos, it's all of this stuff. And now it's out there. It's people can look at it, people can search it, people can find it, and people can, you know, imagine because these are people who generate stalkers.
Yeah.
Imagine how unsafe you must feel if you have pictures of your car, if you have pictures of your street address, um,
What
and
about
now they're
people
out
who
there.
take pictures for their insurance purposes? Every bit of their assets, stored on film for insurance purposes.
And there it is. Yeah.
All the guns you own, the
Yeah.
number of them, everything like that. How many
I mean,
cars?
most of us have have the auto upload option on our phones. Mine I have set to go to Dropbox. Other people have it set to go to their OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever, because every single application you install wants to be the auto upload destination backup for your photos. Your phone comes with cloud space, but that's yours. That's your private backup for your photos. And we're very clear on the fact that Edward Snowden committed a crime when he released publicly what the government said was its private papers. We need to also be very, very clear that the people who released these photos from the celebrities committed a crime in releasing the private information of private individuals.
I would,
The Edward Snowden case is kind of questionable because some of that stuff was classified improperly, and a lot of the stuff we kind of needed to know. But he's on the run for his life, and we understand that, and there's not really a whole big question about understanding whether the government would have rather all of that information stayed private. And we don't necessarily blame the government for creating if they didn't want this document out there, they shouldn't have written that memo. Oh, come on. We don't blame the victim here. We understand the government's the victim, as are we. Um,
no, I
but
wanted to
we need
bring
to
this
we need to
to.
see a little parallel there because they easily understand that Snowden quote did wrong unquote. So the hackers who got the stuff from these celebrities did the same bad thing.
I wanted to bring up the media here. Christina Ribali made this point on Facebook. Reminder, the same media wringing their hands over these pictures made Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian stars from their sex tapes. Choose your moral high ground carefully.
Yeah.
She was talking about that to the media. She got back a comment from another blogger that I know. But let's be fair, those two had choices in releasing their tapes, whereas the current crop was deeply personal and not meant for public consumption. And then she agrees. There's been a lot of, but they shouldn't have taken the pics and such, when no one in the media was concerned about should have when they released those tapes, or for that matter, the fact of the illegal recording of Romney's 47% remark.
Right.
Ooh.
So I want to say that you guys have, this discussion's kind of changed my mind on this topic. I came in kind of thinking, I think Ricky Gervais tweeted earlier that if you don't want nude photos of yourself online, don't take nude photos. Pretty simple. And that still kind of makes sense, that if you don't want something out there, don't put it online, especially if you're a celebrity. You know that people are going to be looking for anything of you. But when you put it in terms of it's your private property, it was in your house, locked up in your desk, and someone broke in and stole it. It could be your address. It could be your car license plate. It could be your friends, your family, your kids. It could be all those photos and other things that people would want private. I think that makes a lot more sense in the argument than just, because it's so easy to just say, if you don't want nude pictures of yourself out there, don't take them. But there's all sorts of stuff that we keep on the cloud that we don't want out there, that we would hate people to have, and this falls in the same category.
The thing that made this story pop in the media was naked pictures of Jennifer Lawrence. I mean, that's what made it a popular story. If it had been credit card numbers of Jennifer Lawrence were sold by the Russian hackers, that would not have been as big of a story. How do we know the hacker didn't also steal credit card numbers of Jennifer Lawrence? We don't know that. This hacker seems to have been looking for naked pictures of celebrities, but the bottom line is a hacker was able to get at private information of people and exploit it for his own purposes. We know about this because he targeted celebrities and published their nude photos. What we don't know is how many unpopular uncelebrities had their insurance information and their pictures of their kid. We don't know how much of that actually has gone on. I'm sure there's quite a lot of it.
Yep, and it happens every day. We don't hear about it. It happens a lot. There are a lot of hacker collectives out there. There are a lot of people who do this, and there are a lot of people who have their data in the cloud. There's a lot of people, and it's not just in the cloud. By the way, that's something else I want to point out, is that this is not strictly a cloud-based phenomenon.
No.
You can have your PC brute force hacked, and have everything that's on that stolen just as easily. This is a vulnerability that was found out and utilized in this particular case, but it wasn't a less safe place to store your stuff than your computer, by no means.
No, not at all.
Equally dangerous, and that is limited. I mean, it wasn't the risk of putting it on that cloud was about the same as putting it on your desktop, assuming that you don't do something silly like have your router 2 feet away from the curb so that somebody can go in and brute force your router and get to your computer like that. This is a real crime, and we need to treat it as such. And I'm glad, Ryan, that you changed your mind on it, or at least can see more to it than just the obvious haha. If you didn't want your picture out there, then you shouldn't have taken it.
Oh, finger wag, shame on you. So typical of the conservative community, yeah.
But it was funny. Hail Razor did put out a tweet that was pretty great. If Jennifer Lawrence had wanted her photos secure, she should have talked to Lois Lerner or something like that.
Yeah, she should have emailed them to Lois Lerner.
Yes. I mean, that was a nice little dig on the government, and using that in a positive way to poke fun at government policy while expressing, not an authentic scoldie, but a pretend scold at Jennifer Lawrence.
Right. And it's not that I don't want this story to be talked about. I think that's important that we talk about it, but
Talk about it in the right way,
just let's everybody
a helpful way.
put yourself in Jennifer Lawrence's shoes, or think about what would happen if it was a relative that had this happen to them, because more than ever, people have pictures and stuff and whatever that it's not an uncommon occurrence.
That brings up something. The way that you said that jogged my memory. And maybe the way we do begin to think of it, because so many people that might be using this scoldy tone might be doing so out of a place of, a moral high ground of some sort or another, maybe. I'm willing to grant them that. But just because you happen to have a clean, spotless record yourself does not mean that the people around you have clean and spotless records that you may or may not know about. I have a relative who actually has a daughter who had, topless pictures out there at 15 years old. That's not something I expected. My relative didn't expect that as well. But that's out there. And I don't know if that, where that is out there. And it's very likely that that she could end up having that fall back on her later in life. I don't know. But if you can't put yourself in the shoes of the person to whom it's happened, you could probably empathize with it if it were someone that you knew or were connected to. Children these days have, poor judgment all over the place. The technology is advancing faster than their sense is advancing. And so it's very... I'm encouraging people, if you can't think about it that way yourself, for yourself, think about it in terms of a loved one or a relative or something like that. It might help you gain that empathy that you lack when you're dealing with this subject.
Absolutely. I want to turn the discussion a little to something that is thankfully less has less of a blowback on us when it comes to scoldiness and people getting upset at us for blaming the victim. I saw something that Corey from the Party of Choice shared. Actually, it was shared on the Party of Choice Facebook page and G+, and it was an article about. Well, first, let me get their Facebook page up here. It was an article about a woman who grew up in communist China and survived it and has become a thriving business person here, a citizen of the United States, and is a true American success story. The article, which I'm going to post into the chat right now, is really good. I mean, it's a great piece, and it's something that I'm always inspired when I read these things, and I'm also always terrified about just the kind of craziness that goes on in countries like China and countries like Cuba, in all of these communist in North Korea. Like, let's not even talk about North Korea because it's just how bad it is there. The thing is that as I read the article, there was a point in it, and it's on FreedomWorks. There's a point that it reaches where instead of just talking about her experiences and talking about how good it was for her to come to America and how good it was to escape the big government, to escape all of the conditions in China, she then goes on to talk about big government and why it's horrible and awful, and just sort of pounds that issue into the ground, that big government is terrible, so you need to pay attention and you need to vote and you need to take care of things here, and goes into everything that you should be doing about big government. As I read this, I thought, when I started reading the beginning of it, I thought, why is it that these articles aren't more spread out? Why is it just us? Why is it that when we share these things, this is a great story. This is a great success story. Why is this not more popular outside of conservative circles? Then I get to that point in the article where it turns and it starts talking about, we get into talking points, and we sort of, as I said, pound the issue, big government, into the ground, when really there was no need to pound big government into the ground, because anyone who's reading the beginning part of the article and reading and paying attention to what this woman went through in China, in that communist system, you are going to infer, the reader is always going to infer, that, holy cow, this is a scary, terrible, terrifying situation that this person was in. We don't need to put in those hammer blows all of the time, and especially if we're trying to reach other people, if we're trying to reach the middle, if we're trying to reach moderates. Those kind of hammer blows of this is what you should be thinking, I don't think that they help. And when I read the article, I immediately thought of a couple of my friends, and I went out and who are not political, they're interested, they pay attention, but they are not. I wouldn't call them affiliated with any party in particular. Not Democrat, not Republican. No real. I wouldn't say apolitical, but interested. Maybe we'll call them. And I got some. I reached out to them and I asked them for feedback on the article, and what I got back from that, I think it was some very important commentary, basically saying that, hey, don't tell me what to think. I can get it myself. I can grasp it. Just give me the facts, and I'll make that call. Let me read it. Let me see what it's about. And you don't have to tell me what I need to think. I will, I'll just let me read it, and we'll talk about it. I thought that was a really important thing to think about going forward with our stuff that we put out, because we tend to write articles that shouldn't be for us. We should be putting articles like this out there for broader consumption, but we turn them into these, I don't know.
And it does depend on who your audience is. If you're trying to tell a story if you're telling a story, you need to trust your audience. And if your audience is broad and you're trying to convince them, but then there are times when your audience is our people and you're trying to convince our people this is how you need to understand this particular thing and this is the action you need to take. That's one thing, but you're right, we do have a tendency to tell a story and then here's your follow-up lecture, which people would just rather have the story and make the inference on their own. We don't trust our readers.
And at the same time, we shared a story last week about wrong information voters. So you have to walk that line. I think what you did, JD, is you self-selected intelligent, able, competent people who can draw those inferences and who were maybe taken aback or offended by the I guess the connect the dots feature that the article has to it. And at the same time, we did talk about like 30% of people that had wrong definitions last week on a particular set of definitions who don't know, who don't understand. And another thing that I think about this story is that when we approach something stark and real, like this story about communist China, or the one we read last year, I know you remember it, about North Korea and the man who escaped from North Korea, and I'll find that it's somewhere in the history somewhere. But when we look at that, and then people are attempting to make the parallel to what's happening here, the contrast is still so stark. When you think of people banging on the doors and entering your home at will without a search warrant, in America, we just don't see that happens often enough to petrify people. Now, it might happen. It might be happening a lot more than we think it is. We're always talking about the militarization of police, and swatting is a thing. And people have had the SWAT called on them just for harassment purposes. I mean, there's real dangers here to a big government. But when you're contrasting what people experience here day in and day out with horror stories of North Korea and Cuba and China, and you attempt to lead them down that path, it's very difficult for American people with American experiences steeped in Americana and the life here that they have to feel that until it comes home to them in some way.
Because it's still so alien, we're not connecting it. I can
we
see
might be marching as fast as possible toward that kind of government, and yet until people see that in practice on a regular basis, by which time it's too late, we're just not going to be able to make those connections to the middle quite yet. It looks like exaggeration. It looks like hyperbole. And that does present a problem, because this is the honest story of someone who was there, who did experience that, who sees the parallels, but it's very difficult to sell that and make those connections for people who are apolitical and who are not watching and who don't see it that way. And so perhaps what our focus needs to be is more thinking about how we do draw those parallels for the people that have wrong information or low information, however you want to say it, apolitical, and also distinguishing between people who can make those, at the level that can make those leaps themselves versus people who need the roadmap.
And I think this does begin to tie together both Garrity's article about the wrong information voter and some stuff that I've been seeing about. There was a Reason poll that seemed to be conflicting information, where depending on the question you ask, people do or don't want bigger government. And it really isn't that people want bigger government. If you ask them, do you want a bigger government that takes care of people, they're focusing on takes care of people, and they say yes. But then when you say, do you want a bigger government that raises your taxes, they say no, because they don't want the high taxes. When we conservatives talk about big government, we know what we mean, but people who are not us don't know what we mean. And this also then ties into an article that Ace wrote on Ace of Spades a while back about, saying stuff in the terms of what people want to hear. People want to hear about freedom and equality of the sexes, and they want to hear about being nice, and you have to say stuff. I'm going to just read what Ace wrote. The thing that truly defines an apolitical person is that he defines himself as non-ideological, and he's proud of that. He's proud that he doesn't bother with much thinking about politics or general political philosophy. So when he hears a bunch of ideologically convenient premises, like the idea that equality isn't nice and maybe trees aren't so nice either from a political party, which is us, he gets the idea correctly that these are ideological ideas, and this is not like him and probably also crazy. The left, I think, is usually a bit better about talking up the GOP nice things. We actually get annoyed when they do, because we know that they don't mean a word of it. Because the left will talk about freedom and liberty and democracy and equality and all of these things, but then they vote kind of against it. So we have to actually talk about the things that the left values and agree, like Andy is always saying, we have to agree with our opponents. Agree that yes, the desire for freedom, and the desire for equality and choice is a very good one and a very noble one, and I agree with you. And here's why our side actually achieves and accomplishes those things. And it's all about speaking in the language that they understand. We continue to talk in our language to our people and think they're stupid, they're low information voters because they don't understand what I'm saying. Well, you're not teaching them your language, so no, they don't understand your language. You know, if you're a Spanish speaker and I'm talking English to you, if I yell louder, you don't understand it better. And what we're doing is we're yelling louder in our language rather than using language that works for them.
It's kind of ironic actually that you bring that article up because actually I when I shared that article when it came out, one of the two people
ACE's
that
article?
yes, Ace's article, one of the two people that I tagged actually responded to it and said I was with it up until the point where he says that only the left does this for political reasons, you know, or something to that effect, saying that the left does it, you know, and we are kind of upset about it because we know that the left doesn't mean a word of it. That she was down with the article up until the point that he said that, and it's funny because it kind of ties in with what he's saying in the article itself, and what we're talking about here is kind of that same thing. But I do want to I want to say to Fishy that I think that she's right to a large extent, that I did self-select accidentally because these are the people that I hang out with, and it just so happens that they're smart people and people whose opinions I appreciate. So yes, there's definitely self-selection there, and it might just be that. But I do think that we also need to be, at least to some extent, more mindful of who our audience is and how we communicate to those audiences without making them feel like they're idiots and without being so overt. Let's try and be more sneaky about conveying our opinions so that it's not talking points, so it's not just immediately that bat of conservatism in people's faces, even though I understand that, you know, we have this problem where people think they know what libertarian means but they don't, or think they know what conservative means but they don't, or think they know what liberal means, or progressive. People who think that progressive actually means what libertarian means, just stuff that is so conflicting and hard for anyone who's actually active in politics to understand.
And we'll tend to dismiss them as stupid. On this millennial, the Reason Group 2014 millennial poll, they asked which is better, capitalism or socialism, and capitalism only won by 10 points. And you're thinking, oh my God, capitalism only beats socialism by 10 points. But then when they ask which is better, a free market economy or a government managed economy, the free market economy wins by 32 points. It's because people understand what a free market economy is.
Well, and we're talking about a generation who didn't grow up with the Berlin Wall. We're talking about a generation who didn't see people, being shot at by boats as they try to cross the rivers to get out of communist countries. That was a part of millennials' makeup. That was not millennials, sorry, not boomers either. My gosh, Gen X. What am I? Gen X.
You are Gen X. We are Gen X, baby.
I don't know my own identity. It was a part of the Gen X experience growing up. Right. We saw those things. We heard the stories of Soviet defectors, and we got, great ballet company editions from Ho Chi.
Right, and you understand that when I go to the grocery store and I see an entire wall of loaves of bread, I think back to hearing the stories of the Russians who come here and they go to our grocery store and they just dissolve into tears. But
there was an actual Soviet leader who was here on tour with a president or part of the president's staff who had that experience, asking, how do you know how much to make? And he was answered, we don't. It's not how we do things.
Right.
We didn't do that. Leaders of that country had no concept of how to not have a planned economy. But when we start talking about planned economies, it doesn't resonate with people. When we start talking about communists or the control or something, people don't get those terms, socialism, whatever.
No.
What they understand, as we've heard time and again from Andy and Corey, the party of choice, is when they have choices, when they have the ability, free market. They get that sort of thing.
They like free market. It has the word free. It has market. They like those things. Those are good. Government managed economy. No, that's bad. They don't like that. And that is exactly capitalism versus socialism, but it's in their language. And we have to advertise them to them in their language. You know, like when you drive in the barrio and the billboards are in Spanish, there's a reason for that. We need to have our billboards in millennial language. Yes, 16% of millennials know what socialism is. Here's one, support for large government. If you have to choose, would you rather have a smaller government providing fewer services or a larger government providing more services? Well, they want the larger government providing more services. But if you ask them, would you rather have a smaller government providing fewer services with low taxes versus a larger government providing more services with high taxes, they will choose the low taxes one. And that's where you have to give them the answer, with low taxes and with high taxes. You and I, we know that a smaller government is lower taxes. They don't make that connection.
And a lot of people our age are sitting here thinking, well, how stupid are they? Is it their fault that a lot of them were raised and taught in government schools that have been held by the left for generations? Yes, some of us
managed stuff that I wasn't taught. So are they. I mean,
Paul Krugman writes textbooks.
Right.
Paul Krugman.
That says all you need to know.
Exactly.
Please,
Why do
please
they not know this?
understand that.
They were never taught it. We can't hold them accountable for the crap they weren't taught.
You could phrase it in a way we've talked about in the past too. Do you want to be able to make your own choices or have the government tell you what you need to do?
Exactly. And when we're looking at the whole...
Tie the two together.
Sorry,
it's the same principle. They don't tie the two together. You kind of have to phrase the question right.
when we're looking at the whole issue of millennials too, if we stop at, oh my God, they're stupid, which of course, you know, I wrote about this in the Dexter defense. You know, this is, you just look at anything that doesn't agree with you as, you are stupid, you are stupid. That does not help us solve the problem of how we get them. So,
and isn't that the same thinking that is, if she didn't want naked pictures out of there, she wouldn't have posed naked. She's a bad person for posing naked. You're stupid. It's that whole judgmental, I'm better than you, ugly side of conservatism.
And I talk about this. If you want to have your ego stroked and your feelings stoked, by all means, go that direction. Joy to you.
Just leave me the hell alone.
But don't crap up my chance of liberty by trying to tell people that they're stupid, tell people that they're ignorant, and then stop there. How do you fix that? Don't come to me and say, well, the problem is, I got it. I know what the problem is. I am well aware of what the problem is. I want to know, what are we going to do to fix it? How are we going to educate them? How are we going to bring them to a place where they can make these distinctions regardless of the language? Maybe they never will. Maybe they never will. How are we going to win anyway?
Right. I would love to educate and inform and get to where their answers on the surveys are exactly the same as mine. But even if we don't ever get there, we need to win elections, and we need to be the ones in charge of the world. And you know, that kind of sucks that I just said that because I want us to be in charge of the world because when I say us, I mean we leave you alone. I mean we need to take the it's a we need to take the political power away from the Democrats, but not so that we can dictate our rules. Although, I mean, kind of, yes, we're going to dictate our rules, which are we're backing off and letting the free market control things.
It is, I hate to retread territory that we've already been on in other episodes of the refinery, but
I probably need the repeat. I forget
it's
things.
it is absolutely baffling how we just hand the left gifts in terms of this moralizing, finger wagging, we're better than you, you're stupid. I, it is inconceivable to me that we do that and it sticks, and when the left does it, it doesn't stick. We
Right.
you know we
They
don't.
will use it against us. We don't use it against them.
I don't know. I mean, we try. I, I've we and I again, as I said, I hate to repeat myself, but it's baffling that that we're so unsuccessful, because maybe it is that we're trying to score points. Maybe that's just it. Maybe we're that interested, that self-absorbed, and not self-aware enough to figure out that, hey, maybe we shouldn't be so scoldy. Ryan, are you there? Darn it. Since Ryan is not here, maybe we should just go into it anyway. Ryan has a new article out over at the Conservative Union, uh, which is really good, and it's on a subject that we've talked about before. Uh, it's basically getting into the point that we, as a movement, make really bad choices
Yeah.
when it comes to pointing at, we talked about point scoring a few episodes back. That's what this is. I mean, it's just, instead of playing the long game, instead of realizing that, oh hey, maybe I don't need to post this picture with the caption "Oh bummer" on it. Maybe there's some greater point that I could try and achieve by not posting clickbait, and it's that too. I mean, there's plenty of that going around in terms of viral pictures and stuff that's just you know making fun of Obama because his ears,
And
stuff like
that
that.
kind of stuff, it's spam and one on the one hand maybe it's harmless or something, but you know what? It's stuff that it fills up my feed and it takes up my time to just to scroll past it. And it causes just tiny little pings of damage. Even if it's one little ping against your shield protecting you from the negativity, um, or protecting you from the stupid. And it's spam and it's garbage and it becomes an annoyance.
It, it bothers me too that reputations and Facebook groups are made on this sort of thing. That here, Free Radical Network sits with 800 likes. People go out and like the page and share it. But we sit there with
And
800
conservative
likes.
union. I mean, conservative union and party of choice and free radical network, and compare that to the whatever it is, American Patriot or whatever,
Right.
that
Patriot News Group or whatever it
Patriot News
is.
Group, some crazy thing that puts out the spam fake hoax headlines,
Right.
and that has almost a million likes on that page.
because this crap works, because we fall for it. That's on us. That is not leftists doing that. That is not people on the conservative, I mean the progressive side that are liking that page and sharing that stuff. That is on us.
Well, and how many videos do you see that are excerpts of somebody destroys somebody else and somebody takes down so and so? We gotta stop. That's not helpful. It may be, and I suppose when you're in the position of being the losers, which we are, you want to seize on any kind of little victory as indicative that you can win, as something that's motivational, that helps give you a belief that we can fight and that we should continue to fight. So I understand that, and I I absolutely understand that we need the positive motivation and we need the successes and we need to keep pushing those successes so that we can stay in the fight. But Megyn Kelly destroys libtard.
Yeah.
It's not that kind of inspiration. It's not.
Anything that has the word libtard in it, chances are it's not worth sharing. Just my personal opinion on that one. But that's my rule of thumb, is if it has the word libtard in it, generally I will not share it.
And I skip past destroys. Anything that destroys.
I wrote an entire article about this. I wrote an article last year about the concept of Jon Stewart videos coming out every 2 seconds and media putting up saying Jon Stewart destroys such and such. Jon Stewart did a great job with this. Jon Stewart, and now it's everybody has destroyed everyone. It's amazing to me that ISIS is still standing. We have so many people that are capable of destroying people.
And can we just think about it for a moment? And as Leslie talked about not too long ago when we were talking about social media, if we're thinking about our purposes, if we're taking a little bit more time, and maybe that's all that most of this we're ever talking about is just taking a breath before you move. But if you take a little time and think about, what am I going to achieve by doing this, by sharing this, by taking this action? It's really important. Who am I talking to when I take this action, when I share this item? I might think I'm talking to my little circle, but what you put out is what the left is mining to show the middle that we're cruel, heartless, mean, nasty, ugly, racist, etc. So I personally don't want to give them any fodder for that. That's the perspective I come from, that I know that we have to reach more middle voters and convince them that we're not just likable, but relatable. And if all I'm doing is taking a pea shooter and attempting to hit the left or someone on the left with a pea shooter, because any damage is good damage, any hit points cause some damage, then what I'm not thinking about is what is actually a good use of my effort, time, and resources, and whether the damage that I'm causing is also rebounding back on me. So thinking about it in those terms, who am I talking to, and what am I going to accomplish with this, might give people a few more moments to think before sharing something like that, and stop rewarding sites that are putting out crap and junk and useless trash, and start supporting good writers and good sites that have good content and that are actually attempting to think through the issues and strategize and do the hard, have the hard conversations, like we do every week here. That would make me very happy.
Yes, and it's not like there aren't a bunch of us out there. I mean, there are a lot of really quality blog sites out there, and I mean, Ace of Spades doesn't deal in much of the ridiculous. I mean, certainly when we're talking about people sharing stuff from that American News and Patriot News, which are both, okay, everybody, they're hoax sites.
Yes.
They're hoax sites. They are not real sites. You're not getting real information. It is fake. It is false, not real. So please, anything is better than that. Leslie, I just wanna bring something up that happened in the chat. Prairie Dog from Free Radical Network. He said that he disagrees with the statement that we are losers. We lost, and he doesn't think it was the conservatives' fault. Like I don't. I agree. I don't think that we are. I mean, we lost some important elections, and if we continue on the same path that we're on, I think that's the point.
We are absolutely the losers politically. We've lost a lot of elections. We are not driving the ship right now. This nation is very much on a progressive role and has been for 100 years. So the conservative movement, the libertarian movement, is in the position of underdog. We're in the losing position right now. We're not losers in the standpoint of, the slang version of losers. We're losers in that we have lost elections, we've lost momentum, we've lost control, we've lost power. Progressives are in control of education and the media and entertainment and political and all branches of government at this point.
But I think
that's where I meant. We're the underdogs that need some victories to propel us on.
Absolutely, we definitely need some victories. But I think that it's also fair to say that we also have momentum. I mean, I
believe so. Yes, and I want to continue that.
It definitely feels like that, and I think that
coming up in November, we're going to rock. November's going to be awesome.
Well, no, it's not going to be awesome.
If we do what we need to do between now and then.
Thank you. That's where I was going, because November is not going to be very awesome if people are not participating in the days and weeks ahead.
And let's talk about this. I mean, we've got and this does tie to Ryan's article about long-term greed versus short-term return. He started out expressing, corporate America. We manage many corporations manage to the quarter, to the returns of the particular quarter, and they have no long-term strategy. Those that do have long-term strategies tend to be long-term successful. The German company that I worked for when I was younger, they had 10-year plans. And then when they started trading on the New York Stock Exchange, they started to have quarterly plans. And a lot changed in that company, and they ended up killing off some lines of business issues. So there's an awful lot that goes really well with long-term planning, but it does make you slow and boring rather than, exciting, and you don't have the peaks or the valleys. And Ryan tied that to our social media presence and our social media activities, and that's pretty much what Fishy was talking about. The insult hits, the little images, the destroys somebody video, the angry articles, the photoshops, the slang terms for liberals or Barack Obama, those kind of things. That's the short-term quick hit. I'm going to throw out this post, and in 2 seconds 15 people that are standing in line at the DMV, they're going to plus it, they're going to reshare it, and it's going to be blank reshares, and it's going to get a lot of activity. And what breaks my heart is I see that on the Conservative Union, the Google Plus community that has however many thousands of people. The amount of engagement on that community has decreased considerably. Used to be that every post had some comments on it, and we'd have discussion, and we'd have articles being shared with a few sentences written about that article and why I thought it was important or why they thought it was important, and let's have a discussion about it. And now if you look at that community, there's usually only 2 or 3 posts a day that really get any comments. And most posts are cartoons, images, links with just a quote extracted from the article. Nobody's writing any of their own content even to write a paragraph about why they think this article was great. Or if they do, it's "this is awesome" as the intro to a link. The amount of time that people, and I don't know if it's because people are using mobile devices and that's less conducive to writing anything, or if they're just not engaged. And I've written posts about let's get involved in these Senate races, and those go out there and fall splat on the floor, and nothing ever happens.
Yeah, it also.
You people have disappointed me. And I don't mean anyone on this call. I mean the audience out there. My 25,000 followers, they disappoint me greatly.
Well, another thing is that particularly when you're talking about Senate races or stuff like that's when it's important to target
Yeah.
your audience and tag people and stuff like that. But Fishy, I would be remiss if I didn't state what Fishy put in the group chat here on the call, and that is a reminder, and it can't be said enough to all of you out there who are Twitter warriors and are out there to fight and break people's faces. If your name is not Kurt Schlichter, carefully consider what you're doing, because there's a very good chance that you are not going to be good at what you attempt to do. There's a very, very high likelihood that you are going to fail and make yourself look silly. And what's worse, it makes us look silly. So please, please, if your name is not Kurt Schlichter, be careful with what you post.
Kurt talks about mocking the left. What he's talking about is mocking the policies, mocking the behavior, mocking the things that they do. He's not talking about how big Michelle Obama's rear end is, or the size of the president's ears, or the fact that she might have I'm not even going to say it. It's just so disgusting to think about. It's not talking about features.
Poor taste in clothing. Yeah.
Yes.
Taste in clothing.
Let's go there, huh? But we're talking about their policies, and if you watch Kurt Schlichter's feed, what he's doing is pointing out stupid policy things, stupid policy positions, and then he takes an iconic, subset of the left and pokes at it. And so we'll make fun of pajama boys and things like that. If everyone remembers the Coco pajama boy from the Obamacare ads, that sort of thing. It's very skillfully done, and it's very surgically done. And that's different from what we see.
The man does this for a living. He is an attorney. He gets paid millions of dollars to represent people in courts of law and win over juries. You do not do this. I'm telling you this. If you are on Twitter and you are trying to engage the left, there is a 99.9% chance that you are not making hundreds of millions of dollars on conveying stuff to jurors and have them, side in your favor on court cases. It is very unlikely. Very, very unlikely. So
and with that said, now that we have Ryan in, I'd like to grab Ryan on his piece, because he really wanted to make that contrast between the short-term gain in business and the short-term gain in social media. And while we've covered some of it, I really want to hear his perspective.
Okay, so what brought it to my attention is I was listening to Simon Sinek. He has a book called, I think it starts with Why, or Find Your Why, something like that, about why you do the things you do. His new one, he writes about leadership, he writes about business, how to focus on the most important things, strategy, things like that. So he was talking on the Glenn Beck program about long-term greed. And the example he used for this is Goldman Sachs, and that they used to be the company that had the superior morals and that would do the right thing even if it meant hurting them in the short term. And he pointed out that a lot of companies, almost all companies now, are just about the short-term gain. It's how do I inflate the stock price for the next quarterly earnings call so that all my investors are happy and I keep my job for another few months? And how do I get all this profit right now? How do I boost my salary right now so I can retire in 5 years, and who cares what happens with the company after that? But the important thing for a good company, and I heard Warren Buffett say this, his quote is, I'd rather take a Walmart or someone who I know is going to be reliable and be around for 20 years than a flash in the pan, someone that's going to jump up really fast and go right back down, and you'll see that volatility. And so in equating that to politics, it's the same thing. Most politicians out there are just looking for the next soundbite or the next election. This summer the elections are coming up in November, and we're going to see all sorts of attack ads for dumb things that people say so that it's fresh in people's mind when they go to the polls. Don't vote for this guy. This guy's an idiot. Or, hey, I got you all this money from this thing that I earmarked and brought to our state, so vote for me again. And it's not good for the long-term health of the country. It's not necessarily good for the long-term health of the state or the district they represent, but it's, what have you done for me lately? It's, hey, I've got this shiny new toy, and you're going to remember me because of that. I mean, I try to be interested in politics, but I go to a local voting booth, and I have no idea what half the names are. It's like, okay, I've heard that name, so let's vote for that person. And I know most other people are the same way. And so it's, if I can get into people's consciousness, if I can do anything just so they hear my name, they're going to vote for me. And I think we talk about on this show a lot that we need to do better at marketing and talking to people and not coming across as rude and change our language. And the left has done a great job of this over the last 100 years, and we're just finally starting to catch on. And I think we need to take a step back before we post something. As JD was talking about, you're not Kurt Schlichter, so take a step back, think to yourself, is this going to do damage? Is this going to make people mad? Is this going to make me or my side look like a jerk? When you're writing an article or you're writing a post, think about, am I talking to people on my side, already trying to convert the people on my side, or am I talking to someone am I putting it in a way that someone who's apolitical can understand, can agree with? I shared another article today that was about, I think the title was something like, when is the GOP going to reach out to blacks? It was something like that. And it was written to by a black man who is a conservative, and his point was he's tried to do a lot of things in his local area over the years, and he's usually told blacks are a small percentage of the population, they're not going to come to our side, it's not worth the money, it's not worth the time, it's not worth the effort, it's not going to help. And I think that's the wrong attitude to have. Even if we do the work and we don't see political gains from it, you're still going to help the people and the individual. You're going to change people's lives, and that's worth it. And I mean, just imagine someone like Ben Carson going into Detroit, where he came from, and saying, this is how my brother and I got out of poverty. My mom couldn't read, and I'm one of the most famous neurosurgeons in the world, and I did that by doing this and doing this and doing this, and you can do it too. And that message would start to grow with people. It wouldn't happen immediately. It might not happen in 5 years, but 10, 15, 20 years down the road, hopefully that message reaches a bunch of people. They start to teach their kids, they teach their friends, they teach their families, and it grows from there. And then we get people on our side. Then they realize what's going on. They educate themselves. So that's my point, is we need to focus on better for the long term. You might score a quick point here and there with a smart comment, but really going to back, think about what you're doing, think if it's good for the movement, if it's good for yourself.
You're less likely to make points with a smart comment, you're very likely going to make points with a stupid one. Just want to point that one out there. But I agree with you, and I think that we've been talking about this a lot. The idea that we need to get into all communities, because that's what the left does. I mean, the left is trying to they're trying to turn Texas blue. I mean, can we talk about that? The fact that there is an initiative that the left is taking to, over a period of 10 years, try to turn Texas blue.
And they don't care that Wendy Davis is not going to win the gubernatorial race. That does not end turn Texas blue. That
No.
doesn't end their thing at all. They're getting a very, very good start to it. The left never quits. They are still today suing about the Texas abortion laws. They're suing to overturn that. There was another lawsuit that they're still, things that we think were long-term settled victories for our side. The left continues to fight. They never stop fighting until they win.
And going off of that, I also want to say it is no wonder. I mean, we ask ourselves, why is it that black voters, why we don't get the black vote? When we say stuff like we shouldn't focus on the black vote because it's only 15% and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, wow.
When that's the stuff that we say, and we wonder why we aren't getting that vote.
And we're mad at Romney for saying 47% in the meantime. And losing based on the optics of that, in part.
Right.
And by the way, who do we always say collectivizes people?
The left.
The left.
What are we doing when we say that?
Collectivizing.
Collectivizing people. Can
Right.
we get that in our heads? Just wanted to point that out.
Well, and some of it is there has to be a balance between short-term and long-term, and we have a balance between our political strategists who are looking to grow the black vote by 2% and growing the rural woman vote and looking at the high school graduate Hispanic males who are left-handed vote. I mean, Karl Rove with his micro-targeting. There are those professionals out there who do that. There's their job, and and it's fine. We kind of need some of that, but we need them to not speak publicly.
And when we talk about the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago and the second best time to plant a tree is now, the best time to work in communities for future victories is 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
Right.
It's the same concept. Whatever inroads you make, this however small, is a foundation upon which to build. And if you are waiting until the proper time, until you gain a certain percentage of attention by, as registered by votes out of a community in order to go and talk to them, you are going to be a perpetual election loser. It's just going to happen. And this brings up what Arthur Brooks was talking about in the series that we've referenced several times from the AEI's Pursuit of Happiness video series. What are you doing? Can you do your policies? Can you go out and speak to people? Can you advocate policies that will benefit people who will never vote for you? Can you go out and do the right thing regardless of the payback to you? People who will never come to your side. Can you still reach out to them? Can you still attempt to talk to them? Can you still attempt to make their lives better without expecting anything in return? Are we only going to places where there's a return on investment that's obvious? Or are we going to invest in people where the return on investment might not be blatant and in your face, but it might have ripples that last for decades?
And yeah, that gets us to, again, it's going to come up soon in these Senate races. There are some Senate races where it makes sense for us to invest our time because there's going to be a payoff in November. And there are, frankly, other Senate races that are not worth any investment because there won't be a payoff in November, and we have to focus our efforts. So again, we have to do this balancing thing, you know, but I'm not saying that we should always ignore California. You know, I mean, because there are Republicans in California, and just because we're not going to get a Republican senator from California now doesn't mean we never will. But we can't invest in that right now. I mean, how do you find the right balance between don't waste your time and don't ignore the long-term possibility?
But it's two different functions. The one function of getting election is a short term, winning elections is a short term goal that has a particular team that's tasked to do that. And those are typically hired by campaigns. Those are typically candidate based. When we're talking about long-term investments in communities, that's a party function and a conservative organization function. So you have separate organizations that can do that, and the movement can therefore walk and chew gum at the same time. There is nothing that says that I can't block walk for a candidate on Tuesday and attempt to get him elected in the short term, and then on Thursday go work at a fair in an inner city and help people fill out voter registration forms. There's nothing that says I can't do both. And they're not competing for the same resources even.
See, I think this is where we need to define the why. Why are we doing this? What's our end goal? And look at our long-term strategy. And I think Wisconsin's a great example of kind of what I'm thinking. Governor Walker is there, and it's been a deep blue state for a long time. He came in, made sweeping changes. Everything's gotten better. It's a model of what we need to do and what we need to be putting out there. And the less response is not, oh, we lost it, let's go work on Texas, let's hold New York, let's hold California. It's, let's get him out of office any way we can. And there was an article today about another John Doe investigation. I think this is the third one they've started. The other two have been thrown out. There are no grounds. There's been a lot of illegal activity that the Democrats that started these investigations and have been running them are getting in trouble and being brought up on charges and will probably go to jail for. And they don't care. The point is that Governor Walker is corrupt is the headline in all the left news sources. That's what people see. So when it comes up for re-election, it doesn't matter that they don't have policies. It doesn't matter that he's done wonders for their economy and for their jobs and for their debt. The important thing is the headline says he's corrupt. That's what the voters are going to remember. And so if we have the right focus on the right goals, we can work a lot more effectively and a lot more efficiently and spend our limited resources, because we don't have the money and resources that they do. We don't have the training that they do. But we
And
have
that reminds me what other famous governor has been dragged through the mud lately by the left over something like ethics issues. Anyone?
Would that be Rick Perry?
someone from your neck of the woods.
Rick Perry, charges of abuse of power over refusing to fund an office of integrity, public integrity, headed up by someone who had DWI charges. It's a mess of a case, but what is the headline that's out there? Rick Perry's got himself a mugshot.
My governor does not yet have a mugshot, but
Yeah.
similar stuff. I mean, I don't know, because I mean, to some extent, I can imagine. I can imagine pretty much anyone doing the kind of stuff that's alleged in the Bridgegate scandal. But
Well, and there's some casino stuff going on that's getting looked at. So, just saying.
well, sure, but there's definitely more pressure on Chris Christie than there would be on other party affiliation governors. So This is something that the left is good at, and I don't want to make any excuses for my governor, but definitely I have no illusions about these things not being stoked by liberal fires. I mean, these are clearly.
Well, and imagine if our goal, if our why, as Ryan has been talking about, was take back the Senate in 2014 and take the White House in 2016 in order to begin to reverse progressive policies, period, end of sentence. How would our lives change? How would our activism change if that were everything that we were doing? If everything that we did fell into the service of that goal? How streamlined, how focused would we be? How many of the little things that we spend time complaining about here that we see on our side would just fall away?
Because they aren't in service of those goals.
And I think Ryan is dead on when he talks about we have to get our goals straight. It's something that we should examine on a regular basis. Are we serving the goals that get us where we want to go? We go through all these chains about who's doing what in what office, and whether this Republican's a rhino or that one is a squish on this issue or the other. And
what's your policy proposal for this, that, and the other? And we have no answer to the,
And I understand the people who want to talk about those distinctions. I get it. I have been one. I understand that, a so-called rhino is not a so-called true conservative. Terms, both of which terms I have rejected, but I know people use. And that said, I get that people want to talk about those distinctions, but do those distinctions matter when you are not in power?
No, they don't. At this point, the only distinction that matters is not Democrat.
And I apologize, that's a really crappy place to get to, being not Democrat. That's a really crappy place if that's the best that you're going to get. But if that is the one thing that you do get, then you have moved from Democrat to not Democrat. And that is movement. It's not optimal, but it's movement, and it's a base to build on. People want to have this.
It's a mandatory first step, I mean, it's necessary. It's not sufficient, but it's necessary.
Can we say 100-year plan? 100-year plan.
Yeah.
They had one. Why can't we?
Well, exactly.
And it's not like
step one is everybody who's not a Democrat is my potential ally. Period.
No. Everyone is our potential ally. Everyone is our potential ally. I mean, here's how stupid this is. I mean, the left has just as many cracks and fissures and schisms in it as we do, and more in certain areas. But do we take advantage of that? Not usually. Not usually. And there are places that we absolutely can. And I'm seeing them here as I'm getting more involved on the ground in local stuff. I'm hearing more about these things. I'm hearing more about opportunities that we can take. And if it's here in New Jersey that there are Democrat groups that don't like other Democrat groups, that if you could get a couple of those people to say, hey, you know what, I'm not showing up at the ballot box, and I'm going to tell my friends not to show up at the ballot box, that's huge. That's a huge gain. And there's stuff that we could be doing and that we're not doing. We're not paying attention to votes lost. We only pay attention to votes gained. There's a lot of stuff that we could be focusing on that we're not. And going back to what Fisher was saying about if we had stripped away all of this other stuff and became a streamlined movement like the Democrats are, even in that case, we aren't going to be some rhino party. I mean, there are still people in place already who are extremely conservative, and even if you want to, go down that road, not constitutional conservatives or whatever.
Yeah.
These terms that we use that divide us more than they unite us. There's still going to be the Massies and
There's a
the
whole
Amashes
spectrum, yeah.
and the Cruises. It's not going to be this uniform deal. That's not what it is. It's going to be.
And would you take Mitch McConnell if you could get 4 more Justin Amashes in at the same time? I would.
At the same time, you betcha. I would take 4 Justin Amashes instead of, but if I could, instead of a Mitch McConnell, but Mitch McConnell can ride along with Justin Amash, absolutely. And if it's a choice between Mitch McConnell and whatever Democrats running against him, is that where that Allison Lunderson Grimes person is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Grimes
If it's Mitch versus Grimes, I'm taking Mitch. I'm a Mitch girl.
10 times out of 10.
Exactly. And what you were talking about, JD, kind of trying to drive a wedge between the different little sectors of the Democrat movement, trying to, help them hate each other, which I love that strategy. John Gabriel was talking about that in his article where he was comparing having been at the AFP Dream Summit versus Netroots, Netroots Online or Netroots, whatever it was, where he said that the people at AFP were individuals and we're all in one happy family. Nice to see you, you individual. And at Netroots, they were trying to figure out which particular little group you belong to, and we don't do that. It was really neat to see that article of him comparing the two conferences. And that segues into Fishy telling us about her time at AFP Defending the Dream Summit.
Yes, I was really excited to see that piece from John. John Gabriel was, one of the many bloggers that I got to see there, this close to having my picture Johning with him with a drink, but I didn't have my Sonic cup with me, or I would have done it. But he's delightful and funny and clever and just someone I really wish more people would read. Go out and find yourself add Ricochet to your blog feed and read everything he does and follow him on Twitter. All of that wonderful stuff. John is fabulous follow and so clever. But he's so right in his contrast. I had read the original piece that he wrote on Netroots about that conference and the sort of balkanization of the people in the room. Everyone had their category, everyone had their little nation and their little flag planted, and talking about humor and what sort of humor was appropriate, and people getting into arguments over that. A really dour panel on humor. This sort of thing is what happens there. And when you go to a conference on the right, and in this one specifically, the mood was completely different. In the first case, the AFP staff, even as they were closing things up the night before, they were bending over backwards to make sure people had what they need. AFP also subsidized a lot of people that came for their rooms, travel and things like that. They wanted people there, and they didn't go and just ask the big name bloggers and the large organizers, heads of organizations. They went to regular activists whose contacts they knew, and they brought them to conferences they otherwise might not have been able to attend. And here you had Ben Carson, Rand Paul, Rick Perry, all these people for them to hear speak, and a large host of individual booth setups for different groups as well. And on top of all that, panel discussions with panelists the likes of Dana Lash, Tony Katz, Corey Whalen, and that's Blaze. That's Tony Katz with his WIBC, that's Corey Whalen with Gen Opportunity, and those are great resources that people I don't think have heard enough from. Tony's a good writer as well as a great radio host, and does 4 hours a day on the air in Indiana. And we knew Tony when he was just doing Ustream shows. I mean, this has been great to see them work together. AFP has done a great job promoting him and he them as well. That's the sort of interconnectivity and cross-promotion that I love to see about this movement, and that Extron is referring to when he's talking in his piece about the difference in tone. Everyone that was there that had an opportunity to spend any time got to meet other conservatives from anywhere who were all as polite as could be. There were no knockdown dragouts. I don't think there was any drum circles at all to be found. That may have been the difficulty of getting to the hotel. I don't know. But it was a completely exciting time. People were pumped up about what was going on. If there were problems in education or something, there was a panel for that. If there's an issue on energy and fracking, there's a panel for that. You could learn all sorts of things. But even better than all that, even better than all of those things, what was really great was they had a door-knocking day where they took attendees and went out into Dallas and knocked on doors. Yes, and they had an opportunity to learn phone banking, to go and be trained on the spot how to phone bank for people. And different levels of social media training, panels where you could learn the basics, and then the medium level, and then the advanced level. Even beyond that, they had a Facebook setup table in a room where you could go and get, I think, Facebook employees who would come and help you set up what you wanted to do on Facebook. Who does that? Who tries to help that much? I was so impressed with what AFP had done in this conference. And I've been to one of these before, and it was in this vein, but this was that on steroids. And while I loved the smaller conference that AFP did, that Leslie and I did get to attend in the early summer, late spring, this one was phenomenal. And the great thing about it is that the Defending the Dream Summit is annual and it moves around. So this year was in Dallas. They're talking Indianapolis next time. Don't know if that's confirmed, but that is a possibility. Oh, and the best that I saved for last was I have bragging rights now because I have actually met Corey and Andy from the Party of Choice. And
and there were even pictures that I saw. Pictures.
They're
so
absolutely
adorable. Oh my God.
Oh, and in person it's even funnier to watch what you just hear on the Refinery, to watch it happen. The looks on her faces when he does things and says things. It was such a pleasure. I am so fortunate to have got the chance to sit and talk with them, have dinner with them, have coffee with them, and just soak up the experience that is Corey and Andy. Everyone should do that in their life. It will change you. It really will. I spent a lot of time trying to get people to their booths. Andy got a couple of interviews on the radio that were really good, and you can find them on the Party of Choice's YouTube channel. It is really an amazing experience watching them take off. From their contacts in Colorado with campaigns they've worked on, they're now going to, in January, be presenting at an AFP state summit in Colorado.
Excellent.
Yes, this is so exciting. And with their contacts with AFP during that, I'm really hoping that they're going to be seen in a lot more places in the future, in other conferences as well. There were so many people that once they sat through the 15-second spiel that Corey and Andy started with, their eyes would light up, their jaws would drop. You could feel the energy as they got excited about what they were seeing. It was such a pleasure to watch. It was so neat to see people get it and come back and visit the table again and bring other people to visit the table. It was, in spite of it being in a, kind of in the corner because they needed power, they had a pretty good amount of traffic all the time. People are paying attention to the party of choice, and all credit and amazing props to Andy and Corey for all that they went through to get this done, to improve the movement. I am so excited for what this means in the future.
That
So
is excellent.
you got them to sign the non-compete.
I knew there was something I forgot. Sorry.
All right,
As agents, I guess I suck.
well, I guess it's okay if we have to share the party of choice with other people and radio shows and stuff. I guess we really can't just keep them to ourselves here on the refinery and use them for all of the smart stuff that they say and do and strategies and all of that stuff. So I
You
guess
can't
it's
see
okay.
it, but I'm doing the pouty face really bad.
Yeah, yeah.
It was great. And I
I'm-
do recommend that everybody start planning now for the 2015 conference, and let's all get together and make some big noise. Bring all the crew that we can, all of our people in the audience, all the people that we can muster on our regular calls, all our regulars, and really attempt to help them push themselves as party of choice, but just to be there and be able to get the word out about what we're doing too.
I'm cannibalizing my CPAC budget right now because from what I've heard, it is much better to go to this Defending the Dream Summit than it is to go to CPAC. I've gone 3 times CPAC, and there ain't no door knocking going on at CPAC. There are no doors. There's no you need to take a ferry and then take a bus to get to any place where there would be doors to knock on. Unless you're talking about hotel room doors, and there's plenty of that, but there's not you don't get there's no training at CPAC. I don't know why. I mean, we've had this discussion a million times, but yeah, the Defending the Dream Summit sounds absolutely amazing, and you got like pictures with Lee Doran, which
Yes.
I mean, the fact that Andy and were like at the same table and talking, that
What kills me is that I didn't get a picture with Lee Doran. I've been a fan for I don't know how long, and I had to sort of explain a little bit who Lee Doran was to Corey and Andy. They knew, but they didn't know he was Lee Doran. They just knew how the world works. And so, because I'm the nerd and I know, I took the picture of them and I'm all excited. And Andy and Lee are watching videos from the Party of Choice together over and getting input from Lee on those. And I'm thinking as Lee walks away, I forgot to get a picture with you. Dagnabbit. So, yeah, I so failed. No ex-John picture, no Lee Doran picture. I'm worthless.
Well, that just means you have to do better next year.
Yeah, I need someone to follow me around and like be that person that says, "Hey, I'm going to get you in a picture."
We need
I
one
didn't
of
have a
Pretty
crew.
Shanker's minions to come with us.
Yes, I did not have crew at this event the way that I did at CPAC. So
we'll figure out how to get some cameramen over there for that. I'm sure. If it's in Indiana, then that's not as bad as it's not as icky as going to like Texas or Nebraska.
one might actually be able to breathe without extra underwater breathing apparatus during the summer.
Yeah, that would be the man. That was just
People just can't handle 100% humidity. I don't know what the heck the deal is with that.
No,
Wait.
but actually, I just had a birthday and I turned 75, so this is what humidity does for you.
Exactly. Keeps you looking young. Keeps us looking young. Well, guys, I think we've covered everything we needed to cover today. What do you say? Any massive big topics we have to talk about? We haven't. We obviously haven't talked about our approach to terrorism, but I don't know that any of us have an answer to it. So
Yeah, kill them, the bad guys. We don't
yeah,
want them. Go, just kill them. Can we do that? I mean,
yeah,
we don't have a plan, but we're also not expected to have a plan.
right. I think we can all agree that the fact that we don't have a plan is okay. The fact that our federal government doesn't have a plan, not okay. Not
No,
okay.
no.
Hopefully they're working on it, and I will continue to pray that they come up with a good answer because, yeah,
And
otherwise.
before we go, I want to thank everybody who watches the videos and watches the clips and you know all of that stuff. And that's kind of awkward since only the people who are watching the actual episode, the long episode, are going to get to see this, and I hate that. I need to figure out a way to make it so everybody knows that we appreciate them watching the clips as well. I'll see if I can work on that and get that figured out. But thank you everybody for watching the clips. We had 100 view clip last week, which was really nice. So please continue to share. We hit 50 subscribers, so that's cool. That's really nice.
Yeah,
Uh,
subscribe to the YouTube channel. If anybody here live on the chat hasn't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can actually subscribe to ours and Party of Choices YouTube channels right there, just to the right of you. Scroll up a little bit, and you'll see it. It's right there on the
Highly
right side.
recommend that.
You can technically subscribe to the Free Radical Network's YouTube channel, but there are no videos there yet.
You'll have one?
We're not threatening. We're not threatening. Well, because when we made the page, it comes with.
Oh, gotcha.
And we're making videos for Conservative Union, so.
Right. So Conservative Union is just sort of is the place where all of the
Yes.
refinery videos are. There's nothing but refinery. Maybe we should just rename that channel. I don't know.
We're conglomerized. It's all good, and we're getting the message out, and that's the important part. So
Right.
thanks
Exactly.
everybody for liking and sharing and subscribing and liking and
And plus
sharing,
oneing, plus oneing,
and plus oneing
and
and tweeting and tumbling and upvoting on Reddit, which was really nice. We got a bunch of upvotes on Reddit too, so I'm
Okay,
really
cool.
happy about that.
Yeah, and on Tumblr, reblog us on Tumblr because that's what one does on Tumblr.
Yes. And then that also sends tweets out and Facebook posts.
And if
stuff.
you're in China, then use Weibo.
Sure.
I think Weibo is the Chinese. I think we're big in Japan. No, wait, that's a different band.
Anyway,
Disco. Wait, 80s music. Anyway, okay, yeah, I've entered the delirium phase of the week's show, so it's time for us to sign off and say we will see you next week, next Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time for another episode of The Refinery. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Good night.